Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are getting so close to the full blood moon in a couple days and the lunar eclipse in Taurus. So much happening energetically right now. So, and I figured this would be a great time to talk about grounding. So grounding is an energetic process, but it's also a physical process. It's the interaction, between our energetics and our bioelectric body, our biomagnetic body, all of these chemicals and messengers floating around in us, as well as our structure, right? Like how we hold our body, what blockages we have in our structure, or like narrowing, constriction, or congestion. Where are those guys? So in this episode of Goddess Flow, Healing Movement, and Feminine Mysteries, we are going to talk about clearing blockages so that we can ground deeply, not only into our bodies, but into the bioelectric and magnetic fields of Goddess Earth, so that we can really be solidly anchored in her strength and her wisdom and her endurance, her pleasure and her power, so that we can draw upon that as we need, as well as releasing into her. Because she is our mother, there is no doubt about that. We have pieces of us from all over the universe, but our matter, that which we came from, is the earth. So our matter is our mater, is our goddess Earth. And so whenever we need her, as long as our intention is pure, it's coming from a heartfelt place, then she is willing to accept us as her dear children and help us to relieve our burdens, help us to release our tension, our pain, our blockages, our energetic stagnation, whatever it is, to just let it flow into her. And then in exchange, she transmutes that energy. She turns it into the fire of her volcanoes, the force of her waves, the power and potency of her air, and the solidness of her earth. So she draws upon that as well and transmutes it for us. So it's a really beautiful process. It's a mutual exchange. We're not taking anything from her or forcing anything on her, as long as both parties accept. And she has already said, as long as my children do so with their purest heart's intent, then I am there for them. So it's a very beautiful thing. So really, one of the first things that we do to clear blockages is primal movements. And I'm only going to do them for a couple minutes because there's so much that I want to get through, and I have other videos just on primal movements. So if you need instruction there, look one of those up or ask me for the link. So primal movements, we'll start with our hips. Just a shimmy side to side. And let your arms get in the mix. So remember, with primal movements, we can focus in one area. So I'm holding my rib cage still, and I'm just really getting into my hips. Just a nice jiggle booty, right? It can be great for releasing tension in the hips. And then when we're ready, we can even just go just upper body. It's a little more tricky. Bring your feet in nice and close. I hate that I can't show you my feet yet, but it's coming soon enough. A little more floor space for sharing classes. You can focus just on the ribs, You can even have it be like an actual stretch. As long as it's rhythmic and repetitive. That is what resets our nervous system, and that is the purpose, one of the main purposes of primal movements. The other is unwinding tension that is in our fascia, in our myofascial meridians, which get wound up in spirals or twists or other kinks, and we're just shaking them up. So shake it out however it feels good. We used to have to be a horse in Tai Chi, so you get yourself going and then you shake it out, make the horse neigh. I'm not going to make you do that, but you can if you want. You can make any noise that feels good because it's your body, and sound healing is proven to be effective, even more so when it's coming from inside of us. So sigh it out, scream it out, moo it out, bark it out, whatever you need to do. All right, so we've got some good rocking in. We can do, or shaking in. We can do rocking, even though it's not the easiest to do. It's actually a great exercise to help you prepare for twerking. So we're not quite twerking yet. We're not activating our muscles as we go. We're just holding our girdle in a little bit so that our sacrum can move up and down gently, which is going to activate the front and back of our pelvic floor, releasing tension and unwinding deeply with very minimal effort. So drawing up through your core so you have a light engagement through the front, having the light engagement around the back and side to get that whole girdle effect so the core energy can draw upward, nice and straight. You can do some shoulder flexion and extension, which is its own kind of rocking. It's a forward backward movement. We can even out in our hips if it feels good, and then it becomes a little more twerk-like, although we're not isolating that contraction of the hips yet. So we're just gently, fluidly moving back and forth still. Still warming up. Got plenty of time for twerking, if you want. So let's just swing it out a little bit. I always love going side to side. Side to side gets the side walls of the pelvis and of the heart and of the intestines, and it really activates our liver and gallbladder meridians, which are super important for hormonal health and for radiance. So as much shaking as you can get. Twisting as well. Twisting is great for the rib sides. That long gallbladder meridian goes all the way from the outside of the toes up the sides of the body, through the shoulders, and is a lightning bolt on our head. So often when we have tension and congestion anywhere on that meridian, it can affect our head, can affect our feet, can affect anywhere in between. So if you have full body pain, little fancy twist here, if you have full body pain and it's especially concentrated around your rib sides, you have a hard time twisting, it feels stiff, it's really tender when you pinch, or your intercostal muscles, the muscles between your ribs, are very tender. I have that too. You're gonna be okay. But twisting and rocking and shaking and focusing work on the gallbladder organ and the gallbladder meridian, as well as the liver, because they're paired, is a really good way to go. Likewise, we can support the liver meridian, the gallbladder's sister, by stroking up our inner thighs, or focusing on shaking on our inner thighs, or rhythmically contracting our inner thighs, seeing what else we can keep nice and still. It's really hard. So how can you actively contract your inner thighs without actively contracting anything else? You're going to have a light engagement just to, kind of hold you still, but without contracting anywhere else, can you contract your inner thighs? It's a really good exercise for drawing our awareness into this area. We want to give our liver meridians so much love and attention. Not just over our liver. Yes, we want to love our organ, liver. We want to love our liver, always. But we also want to love our spleen and pancreas, because they are so closely connected. When we have tension and congestion in our liver, it kind of spreads, creeps over through our hepatic portal vein, this chunky vein that runs through. And if the liver blood is sludgy because it just, can't function well, it's got too much to process, that sludgy blood will start to back up and affect the pancreas and our spleen. So our ability to make new red blood cells, to recycle them, to produce enzymes that help break down carbohydrates and sugars. So if you have blood sugar issues, give this little area some love, but also love the liver. So anyways, loving our inner thighs is great, because both of these meridians that run through the spleen, pancreas, and the liver run through our legs as well as their other sister. We've got the three sisters here, our three inner leg sisters. They're very feminine ladies, very powerful as well. The liver's like the governess. She's like the older sister, kind of, in charge, in control, making sure everything runs smoothly, keeping the younger sisters in line. But when she gets overwhelmed, she's really not able to take care of things, make sure that things are running smoothly, and the rest of the queendom here. So we've got kind of the three three ladies in waiting here to serve the queen. And if the spleen and pancreas aren't functioning well, they're like, they're the cook, right? The kitchen is the stomach, and the spleen and pancreas are the cook. They make sure that, you know, we have things are cooking well, our digestion's running smoothly. They work in concert with other organs as well, but that's kind of their main focus. So if we're low on energy, or we have poor digestion, or blood sugar irregularities, or even diabetes, you really want to give your spleen and pancreas some love, right? And then the other sister is the kidneys, and the kidneys are kind of in our low back, right, opposite our womb. So they're really paired strongly with our womb. And in fact, the kidney meridian runs along the back side of the womb, so that's that connection there. In addition, our adrenals, which are on top of the kidneys, they're a part of our kidneys. The adrenals in bioenergetics are our source of core energy, our ancestral energy, that which we can draw upon for strength when we're having challenges, right? Stress challenges, body challenges, whatever it is. And so when we have a lot of tension around our kidneys, those adrenals are not getting the circulation they need. They are not able to coordinate this beautiful dance, this beautiful flow, because kidneys are very watery in one aspect. They coordinate the flow of fluids and feminine hormones through the body. And then on the other side, they're like a fire, and they coordinate the more masculine hormones, which everybody has, to do their thing. So we need this balance in the kidneys. It's a very, very watery, fluid, balanced sort of energy. But again, when we have that tension from anywhere from our feet up, we can affect the flow of bioelectric energy, so nervous system messages, circulation, and myofascial tension can build up and cause structural issues and pain. So anything we can do to support these ladies in waiting, is really powerful, because they serve the queen, and the queen is the goal, right? Becoming the queen of our queendom is a whole process, right? And we can envision it, we can read about it, but when we really start to embody it, like, what does it feel like to stand with no blockages in your system, just effortless grace, right? Like we were raised from a young age to do, or we should have been, but as a queen we would have been, right? But we can start now. We can become the queen of our own queendom, and we start with the way we stand. And I've gone over posture before, so I'm just going to go over it briefly right now, but it's always a good reminder. So I'm sorry you cannot see my feet, but we're going to ground through the four corners of the feet. Bend the knees slightly, drop the tailbone. Draw up. So this is the part that a lot of postural experts forget, is they just tell you to roll your shoulders back and down. But then I'm in this kind of funky position where I'm not really feeling balanced, right? And I don't have a lot of strength going through here. So anything could easily push me off. However, you know those old movies where the Tai Chi or Qigong guy, you know, the Kung Fu guy, they're fighting, and he's just moving with this fluid grace, just rolling through their kicks and punches or whatever they're bringing on. That's how we need to be with life. So we're going to Kung Fu our queendom here. Internally and externally, we'll do some vaginal Kung Fu for sure. But right now we're going to Kung Fu our structure. So we're going to make our structure strong and fluid. That's how our fascial system likes to be, our myofascial system, our muscles and fascia. Right? Our connectiveness. To have connectiveness throughout our body. Yeah, sorry, we're going to the arms now. So I'm just doing rest of my body still. I'm in a good posture, and I forgot to go back to posture, but I'm going to right now. So just have your arms going in some fluid circles while I talk. Shining the moon. Okay, we're just shining the moon. You can wax on and wax off if you want. It's all good. Whatever feels good flowing through you. Or you can go at the same time, and you can go opposite ways, noticing for any clicks, stickiness, and doing your neuromuscular reset, your little wiggles to reset your muscles. So for posture, how many things can I do at once? That's a good test of our fitness, right? Our mental fitness and physical fitness. So for posture, we're activating through our pelvic floor. So as we drop the tailbone down, all that primal movement we did to release tension in there, but once we drop the tailbone down, everything in the front can relax just a little bit. And then as we exhale, we can re-engage and draw up from the front, back, and bottom and sides towards the roof of the pelvic temple, and all the way up to the skylight at the top, all the way up to our crown, as far as we can. So this is going to begin activating the Queen's Path, which is the connection between the spinal cord and the vagus nerve in the front. And we want to be able to have a complete circuit between those two for a strong Queen's Path, for a strong connection between all of our feminine centers. So we'll get to feminine centers in a minute. So as we are standing, our four corners of our feet grounded, knees slightly bent, tailbone just adjusted to where it's feeling like it's dropped a little bit, and so your pelvis can open. Lifting and engaging through all the pieces of the pelvic temple, up through your fields and flowers of your belly, through the granaries and kitchens of your stomach and the factory of your liver. You enter the throne room of your heart, where your queen resides, and you bow in homage to her. You thank her for her grace and beauty and service to her queendom. And we move up to the throat, activating our power, our ability to speak our truth. Activating the crown at the top of our head, our third eye, our mind's eye, with which we can access the infinite wisdom of our goddess self. And we do that over and over and over again. And the more we do it, the more we are able to embody all of those archetypes. The womb, the pelvic temple, we are able to embody the priestess or the maiden, whichever one we need to draw upon. When we activate our belly, our greenery, and our kitchens, we activate our gut intuition, our mother's intuition, our ability to mother ourselves. When we activate our heart, we activate our queen, our ability to rule in sovereignty our own body, and from there to extend our service out to the community around us. We activate our crone, she who is silenced. We activate her because we've all felt that feeling and we don't need to anymore. So we ask for her support in clearing the blockages around the throat, and her electric blue deep healing light can fill us up and clear any blockages around the body, as well as creating a scaffold in areas that are weak. And we then are able to tune into the goddess self. This is why we need to ground into the earth, because we really need to have that deeply uplifting energy without flying away, without becoming so unrooted. And this is what happens a lot of times to people that do a lot of Kundalini yoga or a lot of intense activity focused on breath work, is that we can overactivate one center and have blockages in other areas. So that's why we really want a smooth path between all of them, no blockages. We don't want any blockages in our legs, because that is how we ground in, release, and receive. We don't want any blockages on the Queen's Path, because we need all of those parts of ourselves. And we don't want any blockages in our arms, because that is our ability to give out, to hand out to our community as well as receive from them. So having all of these pieces put together with movement and breath, really preparing us for that next step, which is connecting to the even greater piece, right? Like the goddess and all her aspects is just one aspect of something even greater. And so once we've reconnected all of those pieces within us and without us, And we are able to tap into that even greater source of power, that, the void becoming the portal. And that's the source of true abundance. That's where the thing clicks and you have what you need. You can envision it and it comes to you, it flows to you with beauty and grace. And that's where I want us all to be. So let's do our practices. All right, so let's do a little more shaking of the arms, twisting of the shoulders. Just let the hips stay mostly still. Engaging lightly through the girdle and drawing up through your pelvis. Now, the thing about drawing up through the pelvis that it's important to remember is that we're not maintaining that draw constantly. We're remembering to inhale and release as often as possible. So if you see me stop talking, or hear me stop talking, or see me taking a pause, even in the middle of a sentence, that's because I'm having that urge to inhale and release. I've been holding for too long, and my body knows that if I hold for too long, then I can trigger pain and spasm. So it's almost an involuntary reflex at this point. I don't hold back my breath at any point, and I suggest you try that too. I think so often, especially when we are working in a corporate environment or in a fast-paced environment where we have sort of, like overlords watching over us and needing to be productive, we forget the importance of our breath. We're sort of forced out of our bodies into our heads a lot of the time. And, forget the womb priestess, like just our lungs aren't getting enough expansion and contraction. And so really remembering as often as you can to release will actually allow that draw upward to be even tighter and stronger and with more ferocity and fire without actually taking anything from us, right? As long as we have that expansion and contraction, the contraction and the release, then our muscles have a chance to recover. They don't need very long. The space of one breath regularly is enough. But the more you do of that, the more they will respond and the more they will be able to move with even more fluidity and grace and focus, right? Like when you first start moving your arm and you're not connected to it, it's just kind of floppy, right? If there's a lot of tension, you might not even be able to move it that far. But when you create this rhythmic repetition, we're almost milking the tension out. And you can actually do that. Let me see my arm here. So I'm just doing a very small snake. And this is a very rhythmic milking movement for our arms. I'm not going to break down snake during this class, but I will in a class soon. It's the same thing with belly rolls, and I'm not the best at belly rolls, right? But we are contracting various parts of our muscle, not just various muscles. We're contracting parts of our muscle, which we can do with our belly because it's sectioned off. But learning to control your muscles is actually a way of massaging your body without touch, for one thing. Working with the myofascia to affect our internal organs, our inner queendom, for the second thing, which is, how powerful is that? You don't even have to use acupressure with this method. You can, and it's great. And if you want to touch yourself, or you find a tender spot, or you really want to do a focused acupressure session, or even pay for acupuncture, I'm all about it. I think that's great. But if you can't, and all you want to do, is practice your movements, you can get so much benefits from that. This rhythmic pulsing that I call pleasure pulsing or orgasmic pulsing is one of the most powerful things that I have done in my life. And I really feel like it can revolutionize so many people's bodies, because we're taking back our ability or taking back our power around pleasure. That's something that no one can say, oh, you can't rhythmically pulse your muscle. You whore. No, I'm just moving. You don't like it, you can walk away. It's one of those true pleasures, because as we do it, it ends up feeling really good, right? And it looks really beautiful. And it also leads to even bigger, deeper, wider, higher levels of health during pleasure. So you know, just really simple movements. So all I'm doing right now, so I was doing some snake arms, which we're not doing right now, but then I just went into a little shoulder circle, letting my arm flow behind. So I'm still doing contraction, release, alternating as I go, right? And that's what makes that beautiful snake arm. But right now, you can just let it, I mean, if you're still at the floppy stage, be at the floppy stage. Just go nice and slow. Focus on your shoulder. And see if you can smooth it out. Do that neuromuscular reset. Wiggle the sticky spots. Draw your shoulder blades together. Activate your wings. Whatever feels good to your shoulders. So let's finish this first. Then we'll do some winging. So as I'm drawing my shoulder blade and my shoulder down, you actually want your shoulder blade to move down your ribs. You can feel it, the difference. So between just a shoulder roll and a shoulder roll drop. As I'm dropping, I'm lifting up a little bit. So I'm on the right balls of my feet, and I am lifting my hip as I drop my shoulder blade down. And it creates a rhythmic pulsing, a pleasure pulse through this chunky chunk muscle here that is so often tight. On me, it's always tight on the right. No matter what I do, it seems like there's always something there, and I'm just looking forward to the day when it's completely gone. But let me tell you, using this practice, I can keep it at bay. So unless I sit in front of the computer for days on end, which I've been doing lately, when I don't do that, it's amazing. Just regular movements will heal it. But there's a little seed knot, a little seed trigger point in there that flares up. And I'm due for some acupuncture. I can't do acupuncture myself back there. It's too hard. But even this pleasure pulsing gets me better results than acupuncture. The both combined, even better. But on it, if I had to choose one thing, I would definitely choose pleasure pulsing for any type of pain over almost anything else. So we're just lifting our hip as we draw our shoulder blade down and then releasing them in a nice smooth circle. It looks really pretty, right? Very sexy. And let the rest of your body follow, where you can just focus all on this side. And over time, you might notice that any pain you have is shifting, or that if you didn't have pain, that pleasure is building. Or if you do it long enough, even if you have pain, you might notice pleasure building. You know, our nerves are kind of one or the other, and they don't always do the same thing at once, but if enough of them shift over to that pleasure-led charge versus a pain-led charge, then they can work in concert and create what's called an orgasmic cascade. And you can create an orgasmic cascade anywhere in the body, but especially in the low back muscle here. And especially when there's a lot of pain and tension. It's a beautiful thing, because that pain and tension is actually potential energy. And so when we release it through these rhythmic pleasure pulses, the energy releases, and we can harness it. So if we're, you know, really nicely focused on what we're doing right now, we're not just throwing our hip around, we're doing nice, rhythmically focused pleasure pulses, and we activate enough of our pleasure nerves. It can take some time to get to that point, but eventually, just, you know, like I feel an orgasmic charge building already, just with what I've been doing. And I can feel it activating through my sacrum and down into my pelvic floor, all around my pelvic temple, actually. So it's just a matter of how much tension is in the area and how well your nerves are functioning, as far as how quickly that happens. If I were to keep going, and then I did some focus movements, rhythmic contractions with my pelvic temple, and, you know, some other self-touch to kind of get all of my gates open, because we have where our feminine archetypes live in our body, we also have our sensual centers. So I would open all of my sensual centers, right? All of the connections throughout that vagus nerve, the Queen's path, vagus nerve and spinal nerve, so the Queen's path. Once that is fully activated, right, you know, stimulating our breasts and rubbing our belly and rubbing our womb and doing pleasure pulsing and primal movements in all of those areas, and it's, you know, nice and clear, and we get a nice charge going, then we can pretty much send an orgasmic charge anywhere in the body. And it's hard to describe, but it's like, you know, the deepest release you could possibly imagine. It's deeper than that because it's everywhere, right? Your body just essentially is having a big contract and relax, big contract and release, big contraction and then expansion. So you're floating in this sea of endorphins without actually having even, you know, touched your pelvic temple if you don't want to, or you can't, or you know, you're in a situation where you can't. So this is a really great way to begin a self-pleasure practice. It's a great way to begin the day as far as I'm concerned, because then you can work on keeping that charge throughout the day. So, you know, you're standing in line and you're like, oh, I gotta top up my O charge, right? Like, just, ooh, it feels so good. And then you're looking so sexy that a hot guy comes up to talk to you, and, you know, who knows what could happen from there. That, you know, I'm not saying it could or couldn't happen, but it's way more likely when you're feeling sensual and sexy and grounded and clear in your queen's path, and you're standing like a queen and flowing like a goddess. I found that to be true for myself and for multiple people. So, you know, we do the best we can. But the more we are in this space of kind of luscious pleasure pulsing, clearing blockages, grounding, and being embodied in our as fully as possible in our 5 feminine archetypes, activating our 5 feminine sensual centers, and really walking our queen's path daily, keeping it clear of blockages and sending our awareness through it regularly. Engaging our core energy, engaging our girdle, and learning to contract and release our muscles in ways that allow for fluid movements so that we can do our rhythmic pulsing with ease. And the more we can release in this way, the more pleasure we actually release into the world. You know, like, think about how much energy is released during sex, right? Like, you're burning so many calories, you're releasing so much heat, and so much energy that can attract, right? Because it's a sticky, juicy mess, right? Like, sticky, juicy mess wants to be attracted to that. And what's a bigger sticky, juicy mess than money? Money wants to slide right in and be juicy too, which is why, you know, orgasmic manifestation works so well. But you don't need a partner. You don't even need to have a sexual release. You don't even need to, you know, touch your body if you don't want to. So you can take it there if you want, or you can just keep it very healthful and wholesome and help you feel good in your body and feel younger and stronger and be able to move more beautifully. You know, I'm 42. I have a little more weight than I want right now, but I'm not fighting it. You know, I eat what I want, try and eat as healthy as I can, combined with foods that really make me, just make me drool, as the simplest way of putting it. I don't have any digestive issues unless I am eating really fast, or, you know, if I eat lots of beans or wheat, but I can pretty much eat anything I want with no issues on a day-to-day basis. And, you know, no more anxiety, no more menstrual issues. Irritability is really low. You know, it's occasional, but I mean, you know, I've got kids and a husband to deal with, so they get irritated with me too. We're homesteading, kind of, you know, in the jungle. It's hot here. Minimal pain, lots of energy. You know, I take my time to rest. I take my time for pleasure and self-care, and that's what keeps me going. So, no restriction for me, no pushing hard. I push as hard as feels good, and sometimes that's a lot. Sometimes I, you know, want to do something higher impact or that uses more energy, and I know to rest after that. And the rest of the time, I just flow through work and rest and play and all my other tasks. So using this in between really helps to keep everything flowing like I need to. So highly recommend it. Explore your posture, explore your grounding energetically as well as physically. Work with your pelvic temple, do the primal movements, and warming up your central centers, your womb, your belly, your heart, your throat, your crown, and really regularly connect to those feminine archetypes. So what does that mean for you? How can you draw upon her power? Do you even have a connection to her? What would that take? And so these are things that we go into a lot in all of the different aspects of my programs, but things to start thinking about. And if you want to dive deeper into any of those, just let me know. We will get you going. But I will be back for more. I've got a number of Goddess Flow videos to create over the coming days. So keep your eyes open. If you want to be on a list to know when things are coming out, just go ahead and message me on Instagram or Facebook or through email. And they are all available through my Radiantly Alive Facebook page. So you can message me there too. All right, I will talk to you soon.